What up? Welcome back. This is the Too Tall Sports Podcast. Thank you for being with me today. Got a great episode for you as usual. My guest is Abe Alvarez. He is a former Long Beach State dirtbag. Of course, got to get another dirtbag for you. Second round pick back in 03 of the Boston Red Sox. And by 04, this guy was in the big league. So he got a ring with the Red Sox. They won that year, and he got to pitch during that season. He was only 21 years old when he got called up. So really cool story for Abe today. Please enjoy the episode. If you want to watch it, you can find it on YouTube. Just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, please scroll down wherever you can and 5-star for me. That'd be great to get those ratings up. If you want to leave a review, that'd be great too. You can also listen on Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast, you can listen. Just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. Anyway, enjoyed the episode with Abe Alvarez, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks. Welcome back to another edition of Too Tall Sports Podcast. My next guest is a former pitcher in the Boston Red Sox organization. He was a second-round pick out of Long Beach State, and he is in his third season as an assistant coach at the University of Nevada, Reno. And he is Abe Alvarez. What's up, Abe? How you doing?
What's going on, Brett? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Glad you could make it. Got a lot of stuff to get to with you. But first, of course, 2020 has been a crazy year. So I just wanted to ask you how it's been for you and your family, and now on the coaching side of things also, how it's all been in 2020 for you.
It's probably just as much as everyone. The funny story is when it hit, it was during our season, the 20 season, and we were having an awful year. I think we're like 5-11 at the time, or 6-11. It was brutal. But I was out recruiting, so I was out. We had gotten back from, I want to say, Oregon. We got swept at Oregon, and we had a midweek game. Or maybe not, I don't know. But we had a midweek game at St. Mary's, and we had to make a decision on some kid that we were recruiting. So TJ's like, all right, check if he's pitching on Tuesday. If he's pitching on Tuesday, you'll go and be back for the game on Wednesday at St. Mary's, and you'll meet us there. And I was like, yeah, I know the drill. I got it. Well, the kid didn't pitch on Tuesday. He didn't pitch till Wednesday, so I was going to miss the game. But I was already in SoCal on Monday watching someone else. I was watching someone else, and I was like, all right. And then I got a call from someone I knew. I was like, hey, there's this left-handed pitcher up in Sacramento. You need to see him. I text Buck. I text TJ. I was like, can you guys go see him? And they're like, can't make, practice and stuff like that. We're doing something. I was like, all right, I'll fly up from LA to Sacramento, see the kid pitch. I then drove from Sacramento to Reno, home, slept in my own bed, and then woke up, flew back to Long Beach to watch this kid pitch in SoCal. And I actually wasn't feeling good. I was on 3 flights, and I was like, oh, it's a cold. I get allergies. I was like, no big thing of it. And then all of a sudden, boom, everything shut down. You got to fly home. We lose Wednesday at St. Mary's. And we're going to have a team meeting. And I tell our trainer, I was like, hey, man, my throat's a little raspy. I'm kind of not feeling great. What should I do? He's like, stay away. Don't come to the meeting. Call the doctor, our team doctor. And I was like, all right, and I was like, do I need to get tested? And, the doctor was like, do you have a fever? I was like, no. What does it feel like? I was like, I feel like I got a cold. I'm congested, like whatever. He's like, all right, just stay away, stay home. If anything changes or if you get a fever, call me. Nothing changed. I was like, I fought it off in a couple of days, and all of a sudden we're done. So it was crazy. It was a crazy start to it right away because I was flying, and then obviously being home with my family. My wife's a teacher,
okay.
So she had to teach on Zoom, and then my son was in preschool at the time. My daughter was in first grade, so there's like iPads, a computer. It was like a mess, like for everybody trying to make that happen.
Right.
I was trying to be on the phone recruiting and getting names while, it was just like probably everybody else who had kids and was trying to figure out school. So it is what it has been. And, the unfortunate part is we kept on hoping that it ended, and it never did.
Right.
And, we ended up having to, scratch the season and start all over and figure out the summer recruiting without seeing anybody. I think that's been the toughest part is we're trying to decide if we're going to hold pat because it's hard in baseball. I think it's hard to make a decision on a kid if
Yeah.
you've never seen him. Football does it all the time. They have that huddle app and all that stuff, and they make
Right.
decisions. But for us, we look at it whole. We look at how they walk back to the dugout. We look, baseball. We look at all the things that the intangibles, and you
Right.
can't see those stuff. You just got to trust coaches or someone else. So it was difficult on the early part, but now it's you create those relationships that you have, and you kind of build, and then you see kind of the dominoes falling, and you don't want to be that last domino that didn't kind of get in the mix. So we've made some strides, and we've kind of gotten some incoming kids, and NLIs actually go out next week. So, we got a couple of good kids that we like, but we're still looking. So it's interesting
Yeah.
to watch it on video and recruiting on video and being on the phone a lot. It's different. It's different. It's kind of, I'd rather be, hey, I need to catch a flight and drive and this and that. I'd
Right.
rather be doing that because that's kind of a grind. I kind of like that, but you're kind of getting to know these kids in a different way
Uh-huh.
than you would be before, because before you'd be like, oh, I like that kid. I'm gonna call him for 30 minutes, and then I won't call him again because I'll offer him. It moved quicker. Now it's like you're actually getting to know who you're actually bringing in. It's because you've talked to him. You talk to you're diving a lot deeper because the process can take a little bit longer.
Right. You
So
have
so
to
it's definitely.
communicate.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
communication part and getting the kid to communicate, it's kind of a bigger deal now in this COVID time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll get back to your coaching stuff in a little bit, but I do want to
Yeah.
go into your career. You were born and raised in the Fontana area, Inland Empire, California, and I was just curious on how you kind of got your start in baseball. What age? Like, when did you really start playing baseball?
I want to say I was 5.
Okay.
My dad, I guess it was T-ball. They called it Peanut League
Okay.
in Bell and Southgate in LA County. And my dad just kind of was my coach, put me in. My dad never played. He actually was a basketball player in
Oh,
Mexico.
nice.
And he just always liked baseball though. So he kind of pushed me and my brother into it. It kind of stuck with me. And I was 5, and then kind of just every year, kind of just like every little kid, you play
Right.
year round in California, and that's kind of how I started. I think I was 5 years old.
Okay. And one random fact about you is that you were born, I guess, with an eye infection, and you were, I guess, pronounced legally blind in your left eye. How did that affect you just socially in general, like with school and just other kids and stuff? And also on the baseball side of things, how did that affect you, playing sports?
Yeah, I was obviously it affected me, I guess, socially, I guess, as a kid, a lot, to where it could be like bullying or making
Yeah.
fun. It happened, it's one of those things where if you wear glasses, it's automatic. But the harder part when I finally started wearing glasses, I want to say I was probably 8 or 9 when I moved to Fontana, was that it was only one eye. So one frame is no magnification and one frame's like this thick,
Oh,
so it made it even easier for kids to kind of point it out
sure.
because one eye looks regular and one eye's like this big because
Sure.
I'm trying to see. So it definitely affected me, growing up. Another thing is it's a joke to me now because it's funny as you grow up, but I wore a patch to try to help my vision. It was one of the things the optometrist said. So I would wear a patch like in the summer days, or throughout the day if I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
I would wear a patch on my good eye, on my right eye, to try to strengthen my bad eye. And so every Halloween for about 6 years, I was a pirate.
Perfect.
It was just one of those things where your mom's like, hey, you got to wear it. You're a pirate. And I might be exaggerating 6 years, but I remember wearing a pirate outfit quite often when I
Sure.
was a kid. So it's just one of those things, obviously, that probably I got over pretty quick, and it probably bothered me. And one of those things that you just move on from once you kind of grow up. Obviously, I wore glasses all through I want to say probably 10th grade or ninth grade until I figured out I could get one contact. So then I wore one contact my junior and senior year. Then I just gave up on it because I never got better.
Okay.
I didn't get worse, which is good, but I never got better, and I just stopped going to the optometrist because I figured nothing was gonna get better, and the whole surgery part was who knows at that time. Now if I think about it, if I really wanted to go, I could probably ask those questions, but it's just one of the things I got used to and was never a problem to me until, like you said, until baseball came along and got important, right? Like in high school, and my hat was kind of a little bit tilted, and in college it got really tilted, and the whole legally blind thing actually didn't get put on me until MLB came and tested me for the draft.
Oh,
That's when it became I was legally blind to them.
okay.
So I got, different teams coming by, and one team took a test and they reported it to the MLB, and the MLB then came and gave me a different test. And they asked me like, do you have trouble with your vision? I was like, I mean, my vision's not very good in my left eye, but it's never affected me in some sense where
Right.
I thought it would. And the funny thing is I never told my agent. And then my agent calls me after probably like, I don't know, a day after the test gets taken. He's like, "Hey, bro, are you blind?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "No, I'm not blind. I got a bit of it. I think probably I'm a little really bad vision in my left eye, probably blind, but I'm fine." He's like, "Oh man," and he wasn't disappointed, but um, I think it probably affected me getting drafted in the first round um, by some teams. Some teams got scared, I would say. And he told me that, and I was like, all right, fine, that's fine. If someone doesn't want me because all of a sudden they think I can't see,
Right.
that doesn't make sense because, I had a pretty good career in college where it didn't affect me. And so it was interesting where it finally did affect me. Growing up, I never thought it did. I thought I
Yeah.
was just kind of one of those kids that had vision problems, and you just kind of go through it, and you just live with it.
Sure.
And then once it obviously, I guess, the real world or business, if you want to say, it gets involved, then it's a bigger deal. So
Right.
that's the way it affected me in baseball. I mean, if I go back and think about the way I did things, I mean, picking a second, I kind of really had to look, and
Right.
those things. I can't look out the corner of my eye I really have to look if I'm picking a first, and kind of those things. Comebackers were a little bit scattered,
Sure.
but no, I mean, it affected me, but I never kind of made it a crutch or anything
Sure.
like that. I just kind of dealt with it and dealt with the questions and stuff like that. But
Right.
it is true. I mean, if I were to go to optometrist now, they'd probably be like, dude, you need to have surgery or you need to fix whatever it is. But it just never got better as I got older.
Right. Before we get to your college career, I wanted to ask you, but just in high school in general. So when you really started becoming a dude in high school, as far as pitching goes, did you know, like, when did you know you were going to go to Long Beach State, and did you have any other offers? Like, where was your head at? Even in the draft, maybe were you pitching that well? What were you thinking about?
Yeah, it's crazy, Brett. Just because I guess maybe the way we're brought up and things like that. I mean, college was never talked about. My parents are immigrants. My dad didn't go past seventh grade in Mexico. My mom did graduate high school and do the whole beauty. She was a cut hair. What's it called? Cosmetologist. She did
Okay.
go to school for that when I was like a little kid, but it was never talked about. My brother didn't go to college, and he's 7 years older than me. He went to try to go like to DeVry when that stuff was out. My sister was just a worker. She went straight into working and didn't even try junior college. So it just wasn't talked about. So I had paid no attention to college. I was just going through high school, doing school until obviously my coach is like, "Hey, you got something here," and I was like, "Okay." And I didn't think anything of it. My dad, we didn't, not probably till my sophomore year or right after my sophomore year. Um, my high school coach took me to a camp at Arizona State, and we went out to Arizona State. and did the whole deal. It was pretty cool camp. Pat Murphy was the head coach there.
Yeah.
He's badass, and
Yeah.
I was like, dang, I was like, whoa, like we went and saw a basketball game. Like it was like the whole, it was a sweet camp. And I was like, dang, I was like, this is for real. And that's kind of when I kind of knew like something was up. They wanted me to commit right then and there. And I was like, nah, I have no idea what I'm walking into or what's this all about. So that's when I kind of knew. And then after that, the other stuff started rolling. Travel ball was kind of starting in those years. That's like 96, 97, 98.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know much about travel ball, just a little bit that I played with, just because my parents couldn't really afford it. But that's kind of when I knew. And then I made the area codes, which was a big thing. I tried out for the Angels area code team at Fullerton with Chad Cordero, who obviously was a big leaguer, a Fullerton star, and we didn't make it. We actually didn't make the team. We didn't make it, and we got put on the Dodger team because the Dodger team back then the area codes were actually from every area code. They didn't have any pitching, so they put me and Cordero and on that team, and that's kind of where Long Beach got involved. Riverside, UCR got involved. Fullerton said no. They said I think they already had enough guys or whatever. So then it was pretty much UCR, Long Beach State, Arizona was kind of in the mix, and obviously I had all those letters of interest, but I kind of wanted to be closer to home, and it kind of just, I took one trip, and it was Long Beach State, and that was it.
Yeah.
Want to be a dirtbag.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
And during those years there, I mean, you obviously played with there's a lot of talent there, and even right after you. But I looked at some of your credentials, man. I mean, you were 2-time Big West Pitcher of the Year, 2-time All-American. You won the silver medal, I think, with Team USA. All very impressive numbers. So obviously, there you go. There's the USA jersey if you're watching on YouTube. That's awesome. So what was like just your few years at Long Beach State, the whole experience? What was it like for you?
It was kind of punch in the face for the first year, when you think about it. I mean, I came in to the fall of 2000, so they had just gone to World Series in '98, and they're kind of rebounding. It was actually Coach Snow actually retired after my freshman year.
Okay.
And Coach Snow's demeanor was. I went there because of Coach Snow, because I did my research and knew his history. Team USA, great pitching coach, like knows what it is, and I wanted to learn from him. And it was kind of a punch in the face because I sucked. I was on scholarship. I got beat out by Joey Pace, who's at Long Beach Wilson, who was really good, and he was better than me at the time. And I just got punched in the face. I got opportunities to pitch, and I sucked. I remember specifically Wichita State. Coach Snow had actually worked with me to drop down and kind of an angle against lefties, and to kind of start doing that. And I spoke with Gabe Gonzalez, who was a big dirtbag who learned it, and I went, and he brought me in against Wichita State and 4-pitch walk against a lefty and yank. It's one of those things like you're just like, what am I doing? Kind of one of those things. And I didn't pitch. I had 3 innings all year. I went to every non-conference, but once conference started, obviously I wasn't worth it. But it was just a punch in the face as far as reality. It's one of those things now.
Mature a little bit.
No, yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, you think about now, like, I'm recruiting. It's like you recruit the best players on every team, but once they get here, everybody was that best. Once you get to college, everybody was that best player, and it's it's one of those things where I was like, I'm on this scholarship and I should be doing good and I should be the guy, but I'm not. I wasn't ready. I wasn't, like you said, I wasn't mature. I wasn't mentally ready. So it was interesting. I got punched in the face, but then I dove deep into Revisa, and Ken Revisa, rest in peace. I mean, what Coach Snow and Buckley and Weathers did to bring in that guy in, and what they've done with what he did, it was like night and day. I mean, I didn't, obviously, I think it took me all year to figure out the mental game and breathing and, everything that I still use now.
Yeah.
to figure it out. And I figured it out towards the end. And I actually, what's funny, my freshman year, I threw 3 innings, but my last inning was I made the regional team to go to the regional at Stanford, and I pitched against Texas, and it was crazy. I beat out a senior who'd been pitching all year, and I beat him out because I thought I was going to be worth it on that regional. We got swept in that regional, but it was still kind of one of those things like, all right, I made a step after being punched in the face, and I punched back, and then that led. I think that kind of just bounced me into that summer in Alaska and coming back and kind of being Friday night, which was crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes that happens. Like you get there, it's amazing what happens during the course of a season. You might start the season as not a dude at all, and then by the end, you're one of the main guys, and it definitely can happen. So it's good that you stayed with it because obviously, it led to some big things. So I wanted to talk to you about when you got drafted. So you end up going in the second round. I mean, which is still insanely high. So what was your whole draft process like? What do you remember about getting drafted in the whole deal?
Well, I remember we won the Big West that year, which was awesome. I think it had been the first time in a couple of years. And we're hosting our first regional. We hosted our first regional ever at Blair Field, which is cool. But since we're still playing with school, they had to take our lease was up, so they had to put all of us in a hotel. So we're all in a hotel. I think we're in like Cyprus or something. They put us in a hotel in Cyprus. And Tulo's a freshman on the team. Weaver is obviously a sophomore on the team. And I'm just in my room. My agent, calls me and says, hey, the draft's, I was like, yeah, I got it. He's like, are you going to be watching? I was like, I don't have a computer. I was like, I don't have a computer. We're going to super regionals. We're playing Stanford, and that was my main focus. Obviously, I knew something was going to happen that day. I had no idea what. I didn't talk to my agent about, hey, am I going first round? Hey, am I going second? I had no thoughts about that. I knew I was. I knew it was gonna happen. I just didn't think about when and where. I was just like, I got practice today. I got, we got Stanford coming up. I wanted to go to college World Series. That was, that was a dream. And so I walk around and I'm gonna head to practice, and Tulo's on a computer, and he's like, hey, the first round is coming up, and he's all on it. And I'm like, oh, that's cool, and like, to me, it's like, oh, that's awesome. So then I just go back to my room, and then my agent calls. He says, hey, Arizona wants to take you with the last pick in the first round. I was like, all right. He's like, they want to offer $950 or whatever. I was like, all right, cool. I was like, yeah, it'd be cool to sign for $1 million. Okay, ask just 50 more. Just you're right. Sign for $1 million. Like, oh,
just
okay,
like a whole number.
Yeah, all of a sudden, like, it clicked. I was like, oh man, I'm getting drafted in the first round. I was like, yeah. And they don't go for it. They end up taking Connor Jackson, who I played with on Team USA, for like 1.4. I was like, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then practice is like, I got to go to practice. So I'm driving. And my sister had actually gotten me a cell phone, like this old school like cell phone that she was paying for. And my agent calls me while I'm driving, and I'm about to turn Stearns, maybe. I'm about to turn on Stearns. He's like, hey, Abe, congratulations. The Red Sox just drafted you second round, 49th pick. Awesome. I'm going to practice. Thanks. And I did. And I was like, I'll talk to you later. It's one of those things where I wasn't like, I was just kind of like, oh, right. I was happy, but it didn't sink in. I walked, parked to walk into the campus field, and Coach Weathers was the first one that greets me and says, hey, congratulations. And I'm like, thanks, Coach. And like all the guys, and Todd Jennings was on the team. He went in the second round, and it kind of just started hitting. But then, just being dirtbags, I mean, all right, whatever. We got to practice. We got to go. Stanford's waiting for us, and we got to try to beat Stanford. So it was one of those things that was a cool experience, and I remember it vividly because it's a life dream for that stuff to happen. So,
right.
but it was just interesting how the steps of it.
For sure. Cool. Before we get to your minor league career, just because of the names you mentioned, obviously Troy Tulowitzki and Jared Weaver were there. Like, What did you know? When did you know those guys were going to be dudes in the big leagues? Did you know when you were in college?
Yeah, I mean, Tulo as a freshman made 5 errors at shortstop, and two of them were in the game I pitched at Stanford in the Super Regional. So he made 3 errors, all year. So I mean, I saw him at practice every day. Yeah, his body, what it was going to be and develop into, his work ethic. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And then Jared, I still talk to, quite a lot. We're pretty good friends, and our families get together. I mean, you just saw it, again, length, big, through the, had this nastiness just about him whenever he got the ball, and I was like, oh, okay, this kid's gonna be good. Cesar Ramos. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember when they were recruiting Cesar, and I had him for something, but he couldn't get into school because he couldn't pass the SATs or
Oh,
something.
okay.
And then all of a sudden, like he calls coach, or we see him, and he's like, I passed, and we're like through a party, like he passed, and we're like all pumped up, and we knew we were gonna get him, and it was cool. I was Friday night, my junior year. Jared was Saturday, and Cesar Ramos was Sunday. I mean, it was a crazy rotation.
Wow.
Todd Jennings got drafted. Carlos Munoz was on that team as maybe my sophomore year. I mean, there's just names. John Bowker, who made it to the big leagues with the Giants. Jeremy Reed, who's the hitting
Oh
coach,
yeah.
was there my freshman and sophomore year. Bobby Crosby was the shortstop my freshman year. I mean, there's just a ton of names that continue to pour out, while I was there, and then after, it's
Yeah.
just you just see it, and you see these guys, and you're like, whoa, okay, this guy's gonna play for a long time, and this guy's hard to get out, in their squad. It's just
Yeah.
like, or like me and Jared going against each other on Friday night in inner squads, and it's like, I'm gonna put up zeros, you're gonna put up zeros. All right, this is what it's gonna be. So it's just one of those things that, the competitive nature of guys that you had around you, and obviously the name is the name, and people don't know the name till things happen, obviously in pro ball, but you knew the name, and you're around them, and you're competing, and you just saw it. If this guy stays healthy and keeps on getting better, this guy's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Which was the cool part, when you look at it now and you look back on it.
Yeah. Definitely. So back to your minor league career. As soon as you signed, you go to the New York Penn League, which is basically a step above rookie ball. They call it short season for those that don't know. So I saw you through 19 innings. You had 19 Ks, didn't give up a run. So obviously you didn't have a tough transition going to pro ball. What was it like just that first year?
Well, I think I think there was a lot of college guys. I think it's guys I competed against, some that I competed against already, but now they had a wooden bat. So
Yeah,
so
right.
it was like, I as a pitcher, I definitely have the advantage, because some of them might have not swung the woody that great, or they're
Right.
getting used to it. It's one of those things. And they kind of, I think the Red Sox just kind of put me in a favorable state. They wanted me to start, so they started me. But my first couple starts, 2 starts were like 1 start, 1 inning, 1 start, 2 innings, 1 start, 3 innings. So I had a big load coming off, obviously from Long Beach, going into super regionals. I had thrown a lot of innings and pitches, so I think they kept it light. So I had success, I think just because of transition, and not being out there for so long. I'm sure if I went and pitched 5 innings my first start, I'd have an ERA, or I'd give up some more hits, I'd give up some runs. I just think it would have happened, just because it's kind of one of those things you talk about now. Only one time through the lineup kind of things, right? That's come up in baseball. It's kind of one of those things that kind of happened for me, if I really think about it, and going back, my first year in pro ball,
I'll
or
get back to that
first
later.
summer. Yeah.
Yeah, because I want to talk to you about the World Series that just happened, but I'll ask you your opinion on that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Your second year, 2004, you jump low A, you jump high A, you're in double A, and you're 22 or 23 years old. I mean, what was that like being that young? You're like one of the top prospects, and you were in Portland, Maine, actually playing. I saw. So what was that going from short season to double A?
It's one of those things again that, again, I didn't follow minor league baseball, right? I just followed the Dodgers, and that was it.
Right.
It's one of those things growing up, that I didn't understand the whole aspect of the game. I knew guys came up, but I didn't know the actual things until I got to college. So I'm like, all right, cool. I had a cool short season. I'm going to Sarasota or whatever for short A or low A or
Yeah.
whatever it might be, or high A. And I just went into spring training and kind of just kept my head down, competed. You know, I met other prospects, I met other players, and like, oh, you're the second round kid. And, you know, these guys like know more about me than I know about me. And
Right.
I'm like, I don't know who you are, man. I'm just your, it's kind of those things like I feel like I was uneducated about the whole process until I got to the process. And then once I understood the process, I was like, damn, this process is weird, crazy, and it's a business 100%. And so I just kind of wanted to keep it as much as baseball as I could. And that's what I did. And I think that's, I don't know if that's why I made the jump. Obviously, I was favored as being a prospect and a second rounder.
Sure.
And I just made the jump. I was practicing with a high A club for most of the spring training as I start putting teams together. And then all of a sudden, probably like the last 2 weeks of spring training, my name gets moved into Double A, and you just follow it. You're on this field today, and I'm like,
Right.
all right. And then I pitched in the inter squad, and I stayed on that list, and I met the coach, Ron Johnson, who's a great guy, and I was like, all right, and boom, Double A, Portland, Maine, which I love. It was probably my favorite city in minor league baseball was probably Portland, Maine. It was like a college town, kind of. And I was 21. I just turned 21 that year, I believe. So that was a whole other mess, right? Being 21 and on the road and on your own and having money, it was, it's kind of how much trouble am I going to get into or stay away from? And so it was interesting, and I had success quickly. And again, all of a sudden there's local guys like who are from the area and are Red Sox fans. And, it comes to in July, we're like, hey, I hear your name's coming up to be called up for a doubleheader. And I was like, what are you talking? It's one of those things. It's so crazy that,
Like, how do they know that already? Yeah.
Yeah, because they're from the area or something, and they're listening to WEEI, and
right.
they're getting all the rumors and the gossip and that. But that's what I loved about Boston Red Sox fans. They know everything. They have knowledge, and they're going to support you until you suck, and then but they're going to be good about it.
Yeah.
And even now, if I would go back and I'm actually doing this autograph thing for a company because anybody on a 2004 World Series roster is an important signature for guys who collect. So it's Double A. They're making that jump, and what happened after I made that jump was like nuts, just because of everything that happened that year.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to go into was you get called up in July of 04, so you're 1 year removed from getting drafted out of college, and you're in the big leagues a year later. It's pretty insane. Like that just doesn't happen. Even like the phenoms, like that's as you'll as we talked about before, that was the quickest from I guess draft pick to the big leagues in franchise history, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was pretty insane. So what was it like for you? The July after you get drafted, you're in the big leagues and the whole experience in Fenway and the whole everything.
Well, I think the whole process of it was weird. I think we're in Connecticut. We're playing. I think the Toronto Blue Jays Double A team I think was in Connecticut or New Hampshire or one of them. And these rumors are swirling. Me and my buddy are the two names who are possible. Chris Smith, who pitched at UCR while I was there, and he ended up actually pitching the big leagues for the A's for a good time. He's actually a pitching coach in low or high A and Bobby Crosby is the manager for the A's right now.
Oh, nice.
But both of our names are up, and I'm like, all right, man, if you get it, cool, man, good for you. If I get it, awesome, and it's actually gonna happen. And then coach calls me into the office. Is like, all right, it's gonna, I'm like waiting, like he's gonna tell me I'm going to the big leagues, like, but I don't want to be like excited, but I kind of want to be like, all right, sit down. And he sits down and he goes, well, you're getting called up. I was like, all right, he's like, right, you're starting the first game of the doubleheader on Thursday, and this is like I think a Monday. He tells me, he's like, they don't want the media to know, so you got to keep it quiet. I was like, well, what am I going to do? I'm about to get on the bus with all these guys, and I'm going to
Yeah.
grab my bags. What do I tell him? Well, he's just telling me you got to go home. Really, with my bags, I got to go home. I was like, all right, and I grabbed my bags and was like, oh, what's going on? You get called up? I was like, no, I got to go see something at home. It's something. I know they don't believe it, but I had to say it. But I told my roommate that night, and obviously I'm frantically like on the phone, calling my parents, trying to get them on the flight, calling my high school coach, obviously first big leader out of high school, calling, Long Beach, I'm just excited and I want people to know and to watch it. And it's just one of those moments that was obviously the dream of, sorry. Something happened. I got a dream of wanting to do it, and you live for it, and then really thought about more of my dad. Like my dad, what he did and what he worked for, and everything he pushed for me to get this opportunity. It was cool to have him fly out, and I didn't. And well, the cool part is when they took me. No one knew, but I would go to They put me in a hotel and I would go to Fenway to throw a long toss, and then I had to leave before media got there. And then the day of, it was just cool, just being there. I mean, it's Fenway. I mean, it's the biggest, one of the most historic parks ever. It was hot, which sucked, but it was just like you look out and you're on a big league park, you're on a big league field, you're gonna pitch. Yeah, it's 100 emotions going through you, but at the same time trying to figure out how to just remember it's a game. You got to pitch, you got to get outs, or else you won't be back here ever again. So there's a lot of emotions, but once you go through it and the game didn't go well, obviously. Tejada welcomed me in the first inning right away. Three batters in. The strike zone was about this small. It was all those things where you hear about it, but it's like I walked 5 guys in that game, and I don't remember ever walking 5 guys in my career. And it was one of those things where, it's just one of those things like, oh, okay, this is what it is. This is where you got to get better, and you try to kind of go through it. You just go back, and afterwards you go back to it. And like I was out there, Nomar was at short, Veritek was behind the plate, Poppy hit 2 triples. Man, it's like one of those things you think about. It's like I was in that game and I get walked 5 and we lost 5-2 or whatever. I was like, that's my fault.
Right.
And it's just it's an experience of a lifetime, and you want to continue to do it. And I got a couple more cups of coffee, obviously, in 05 and 06, but being there in 04 and then seeing what happened with that team afterwards, and, just having been on the roster and what they did after, it was just, it's awesome, because then you see a lot of those guys in spring training the next year and you're just pumped up for them. And then, they tell you that I got to go get measured for arena, and I think it's BS. I think it's bullshit, because you're like,
Yeah.
I pitched one game, 5 innings in July, and we lost. But yeah, making the big leagues 1 year removed from college was nothing I ever expected to happen, but it was really cool. It was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of great things you said there, like all the teammates you played with. I mean, that was like Pedro Martinez was on your team, like ridiculous. Kurt Schilling, yeah, like
Wakefield,
yeah.
Trot Nixon. I mean, the list of that. Johnny Damon, Kevin Millar. I mean, Euclid. The list goes as far as what I remember. Just because it's historic. It's definitely historic.
For sure. Do you think you were was it too soon for you to be up there? Do you think you would have benefited from a few more years in the minors, and then maturity wise and big league, you'd be more big league ready?
Yes and no. I think I want to say I reached the plateau, but I think looking back at my career, I probably did reach a plateau right when I was fresh out of college and into AA. And a lot of it, I would put blame on myself, just because obviously now, how much did I develop myself? Because again, it's a business, it's your career. What are you trying to do to get better? I felt pretty good in who I was, but at the same time, I didn't realize who was coming behind me, because I was just going out there and competing. And yeah, I probably would say I would have benefited more from probably going to high A and learning. I mean, I knew how to. One thing I was confident in, I knew how to pitch. I think Buck taught me, Snow, what I learned from Long Beach. I knew how to pitch. I knew how to control my emotions. I knew the whole composure part of it. I was good there. Now my stuff probably wasn't there. I was a two-pitch pitcher, really. Fastball, changeup. I'll get
Okay.
outs with that. My breaking ball wasn't great. I learned a cutter my junior in college that kind of helped me, but I don't think my stuff was there to stay, and I think that's probably where I could have helped in development. I think the Red Sox didn't 100% push my development as far as, hey, let's do this. They kind of took me as I was, as I accepted it, like I was ready.
Yeah.
So I think those things kind of derailed where I was going. Obviously, it's my career, so it's always in my hands. I think I could have pushed a little bit more as far as some things to get better at, but I don't think I also learned that much. Like I don't want to put down the organization because they're great, but I don't think the coaches helped me as much as I learned more from veteran guys. David Berg, who played in the big leagues for a long time, Sean Wooten, who was my catcher in AAA. I think they did a good job of having veterans in certain places in AA and AAA. But the coaches only helped me so much. I don't think, it's just one of those things where as a player, you have to push you have to push it a little bit more. And I pushed, but I probably didn't push enough because I got that taste and I was in that back and forth and it's one of those things, I don't have regrets,
Sure.
It's one of those things where you look back like, yeah, I could have done that. But I did it this way and I did that and I did this. And you kind of wear it, you wear it inside a little bit afterwards. But at the time, I was just going out there and competing and I thought it was good. But yeah, I definitely agree. If there's a whole thing to go back, yeah, I would say, give me some time in high A and let me figure it out. And then, obviously double A is kind of the place. If you can figure it out in double A, you're gonna make the jump.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just quick. It was really quick because then after double A, I finished the year in double A and I was triple A for the rest of my career.
Right. Did you feel
And
like when you were, because did you always feel like I should be up in the big leagues right now? Why am I still down here? Did you get that feeling and did that bother you at all?
No, because I was with the Red Sox and they bought whoever they wanted to come.
Right.
And I never asked my agent for a trade. I should have probably at some point, just because, I mean, the Reds, after that whole time, they're trying to win a championship every year, and it was not always that a rookie was a part of that. They went and bought their talent, as they should, as they should have done. And then guys came up behind me. I mean, John Lester was the guy behind me, and he blew me out of the water. And he's done it, and he just willingly deserved it for everything he's done in his career, obviously. So it's one of those things where I pretty shut it. I mean, there's rumors of me getting traded to Colorado at some point or things like that, where I probably should have, like, hey, can you get me out of here and get me somewhere where I'll develop or at least get a chance or something like that. But I mean, it's one of those things. Once I was in AAA, I was either going to stay there or go up and down like I did in 05 and 06. But I'm grateful for it. The Red Sox gave me all my dreams. They gave me a ring, and I went back there for the anniversary and the 100-year anniversary of Fenway. So it's great. I mean, I still keep in contact with the alumni and all that stuff, which is good.
Yeah, that's still great. You had a great experience. And then you decide after you're done playing affiliated ball, most guys, I always talk about this, nobody really wants to go play independent ball, but you decide to do that. What was I think you played in Camden, New Jersey, and also the same place I played, which is the Long Island Ducks.
Long Island Ducks.
Yeah. What was your experience in indie ball, and where were you mentally when you got to indie ball?
It was crazy. I got released on Mother's Day in May. So like, well, that's one of those things. It's like one of those things that you knew, like oh, like it hurt, like it hurt big time. And I was like, all right, like what do I do? And so I called my agent, like, what do I do? And I was like, he's like, stick around, just stick around in the area for a week or two. Maybe someone's gonna pick you up, and you'll end up going to AAA somewhere else or AA somewhere
Yeah.
in the Northeast, right? I was like, all right, so I would like throw against the wall, or whatever, just to kind of stay in shape, run around. But again, my roommates are going to the park every day, and I was like, oh, saw you guys won, saw you guys lost, and then finally I was like, it's not happening. Packed up my car and drove across the country. And I was like, I got home to Long Beach, and I was like, all right, it's kind of one of those things. I called my agent, like, what do you got? And he's like, well, you could go. There's a possibility of you play independent ball. Are you open for it? I was like, yeah, man. I just got released. Let me finish the year off playing ball. And so he got me to Camden. Flew out to Camden. Pitched one game for Camden in 3 days or 3 nights. I don't know. I probably spent 4 or 5 days there, and then I got traded to Long Island.
Wow.
And some of the guys are like, "Oh man, you're lucky." I was like, "You're going along, you're going to Long Island." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, that's where. If you're in this league, that's where you want to be." And I was like, "All right." And then I realized I got there, and it's like Pete Rose Jr. in the clubhouse, Collar Everett. I was like, "Oh, these are all big leaguers. Okay, this is where I want to be."
Right.
So it was interesting. Obviously you're a veteran, but you're not. I don't know. I was 25 maybe, but I was considered a veteran just because I've been to the league and I've been in AAA. And it's just one of those grind out things where mentally I wanted to do it, but at the same time I kind of saw the end of the tunnel at the same time. So I went through it. I had some success. I definitely had some success. I thought I was doing good, but the vibe, it was just bad vibe for me, and I just wanted to get out. And I remember asking to leave. One of my friends was getting married in November, in like late October, but we had made the playoffs.
Oh.
The coach was like, "You want to leave? Like, we're in the playoffs." I was like, "You haven't pitched me in any like meaningful game." I was like, "You want me to come back? I'm not gonna pitch. I'll come back." And it's one of those things where I look back now, like I was selfish, and it was probably one of those things where it wasn't about, you learn about as you come up. It was, it's never about the team anymore. It's about you. And that's what kind of spiraled me down, because you think about now, that's one of the reasons I'm back in the college game. It's about the team, and that loss gets art. The art gets lost in minor league ball and in indie ball, unless you're in the big leagues or in college. The whole team thing is not happening in pro ball, and it's the sad part about it. So I just, I finished and I got out, and I was like, I was thinking about finishing. I was thinking about possibly trying out for another indie ball team. And I just finished, and then my friend, one of my best man, Paul Macaluso, who was a dirtbag with me, he had been playing in Italy for about 5 years already, and he's like, "Hey, you want to come and play out here?" I was like, "Are you for real? Like, what is it out there?" And he's like, "It's competitive. There's international players. There's Cubans, there's Venezuela, there's guys with visas. You'd be a visa guy." And he explained it to me. And I was like, you know what the hell, like, let's do it. Like, screw it.
Yeah.
He was like, you'll get paid in euros. You pitch on Friday night, like college, and then that's all you do. And I was like, sweet. And and I went to Italy, which was awesome.
How long were you there for?
Just one season, so
Okay.
probably 5 to 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I lived there for 5 6 months. It was awesome. I loved it. I'd want to go. I mean, I got invited with another team to go back
Yeah.
the following season, but I was getting ready to get married. I just, I wanted to start a family. Me and my wife had been dating on and off for a while, and kind of were solid. And that whole, like, am I doing it for the right reasons kind of thing was starting to kind of dig in me. So yeah, I just was there for that one season. It was a great time, traveling, going on train and all that stuff, seeing history. I'm a history major at
Oh,
Long
okay.
Beach. So like that was cool for me as far as experiencing different stuff that I never thought I would see.
Yeah.
What was actually kind of cool to experience that and play
Yeah.
and play baseball and play baseball at the same time.
Yeah. Not a bad deal.
Yeah.
So once you decide you're done, in 2010, I believe your coaching career starts. So then you started coaching. You come back as a grad assistant at Long Beach State, and then you start coaching high school after that. One of our mutual
Yeah.
friends, Chris, aka Whammer, that you coached with
Whammer.
at Cerritos High School, and then you end up getting a head job at St. Bernard High School, and you end up winning the Santa Fe League Championship in 2018. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
think you said it was the first one in 30 years there. So
Yeah.
from 2010 till then, what were those 8 years like when you're really becoming a coach?
It was crazy. It's just I think it was the whole becoming more of an adult more than anything. You think about it. I talked to me and my wife talk about this from time to time. She's like, "Do you remember when you were a player? Like you were just focused. You were a player. Like you were just doing what you wanted to do, and nothing else mattered." And she was right. It was more about being a person, not a person, but just they call it the real world, but just taking part in more stuff, right? I had to come to a realization that my career was over, and I was an undergrad assistant for Coach Weathers last year, which is crazy. Coach Weathers brought it up when he told me he was going to retire. He's like, "Abe, you're the only one in this office that was here for my first year as head coach and my last year as head coach at Long Beach." So I was like, "Whoa, that's good. That's kind of cool." But it was good. It was overall good because it allowed me to finish school, for one, which is something that I always told my mom I would do, and it was kind of cool that it kind of came full circle, and then kind of sparked the interest of what am I going to do? Am I going to stay in college ball now, or am I going to do something else and then try to figure it out later? So I ended up just doing it 2 years, obviously. Coach Weathers' last season, and then Coach Buckley's first season. And I finished my degree, and I was like, you know what? I need to get away for myself. I think if I stayed in there, kind of get away and figure out what I want to do. So I always wanted to teach. That's why I kind of got a history degree. And so my wife was a teacher already. She had been teaching elementary. And she's like, why don't you just start putting your resume together and see if you get a coaching job and figure it out. So I got a coaching job with Whammer, just baseball. So it kind of got my feet wet as far as, calling pitches and trying to teach some kids how to pitch and things like that.
Yeah.
So then, it kind of helped. At least I did do some high school stuff. And then this St. Bernard, which is a small, tiny, small private school in West LA overlooking LAX. They're looking for a teacher. I was young. It's a Catholic school. So I had I was getting my certificate to teach catechism. So they looked at that. I was like, well, you can teach history and religion. Are you down for that? I was like, yeah, you're giving me a job. I'm cool. And then I interviewed for the head coaching job. I didn't get it the first time. I ended up going with someone else, but I was an assistant my first year there. And kind of went with it. And then they fired the head coach that following year. And they're like, do you want the job? I was like, no, but I'll take it. And so, because I was teaching, I had a full schedule teaching. My wife was pregnant. Like it
just
was
wasn't
like
on your radar.
Yeah, it wasn't. Like I'll handle the responsibility of calling pitches and getting pitches ready. You deal with all the head coaching and the parents and all that madness.
Right.
I didn't want that. I didn't want that at the time. I wanted to, kind of build my teaching career a little bit. But then it just happened, and it kind of stuck, and it was definitely a blessing. Just the relationships you get with high school kids, and teaching them about life, and then they get to know your story and your struggles, and the fact that you've achieved this dream, and just tell them, hey, it's possible. A lot of the kids I taught were Black and brown, so they came from communities that they're told certain things, and I was like, hey, I'm brown too, and I did it. And so it was kind of one of those God moments where it was like, hey, this is where I'm gonna put you, and this is what you're gonna do, and you do what you can with it. And so it was definitely awesome, and I built it into, built the little team that I had into something. We're a Division 5 and 6, and it's like
Right.
I'm trying to play. Hey, Bosco, you want to play? Like, no, they don't want to play. They don't want to play us, right? I'd get into the Redound Union tournament just because I knew Bombach and why he was there. So it was like, yeah, you come in, but we get smoked, right? So I built it to what I could, but it was small. I had to wait for football to finish to get players. I had to wait for basketball to finish to get players. I had like 6 real baseball players, and I just worked with it. And like I said, in 2018, we beat St. Anthony's, and we went undefeated. And we won the league the first time they won it since Royce Clayton was there, who was he's a famous grad from there. Royce Clayton, who was the number 1 pick out of there to the Giants. He was there, and Coco Chris went there for 2 years before he
Wow.
transferred out. Ever since that was the last time they won a league title, so it was kind of a cool way to go out. I didn't know I was going out, but it was kind of cool to finish my career there in that sense for the community.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you got a chance to give back and help your. I mean, even it helps you too. It's kind of like
Yeah,
a
big time.
therapeutic thing, right? Yeah, so that's good.
No, it was like it was life-changing stuff, really.
Yeah.
I think more than anything.
And then you get the opportunity to get back with some Long Beach guys like TJ Bruce, who's the head coach at UNR at Reno, and then Buck, who coached me also in college and
Yeah.
you, and he's there now with you. So as an assistant at UNR, what's the jump been like to go from high school back to college, and is this kind of where you feel like you should be at this point?
Yeah, it's one of the things that I look back to, like when I talked about being an undergrad. It was like it was there, right? And I was there like with Justin Ramsey, who you've had on, and
Yeah.
talking to him, and I was like, he's a volunteer, and I was like, looking at what he did, I was like, okay, I could do that, but I just wasn't ready for it. So that TJ had actually offered me the opportunity when he first got the job at Nevada after he was at UCLA. So I kind of lived kind of through him, because we're pretty good friends. I'm Jackson, his son's godfather. Me and my wife. So I was kind of living through him, watching him at UCLA and things like that. And I was like, dang, and it was one of those things where like, yeah, I'd want to do it. Just didn't know when the opportunity would come. I didn't think Long Beach at that time was the right time to get right into it. And so when he first got the job in Nevada, me and my wife were pregnant again with our second, and we're walking. He had just gotten, his wife Heather was still living in Long Beach, and we're walking, and he's like, "Why don't you guys come up?" He's like, "Just come up, I don't know if you'll be my pitching coach, but you could come up and be volunteer, and we'll kind of figure some things out. But I know you could help." And I was like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm serious." He's like, "I know where you've been. I know what you've done. You have value." And I was like, "I appreciate that." So I look at my wife, and she's like, she's not ready. She's not ready for it. And I was like, I understood. We had started a life. We're having kids. I had a good job. I was teaching. I was going to be a dean in a couple of years. There's progress. But of course, there's that itch, right? There's like, yeah, being on the field, being at a Division I, like what's the climb going to be? Am I going to be a high school coach and teacher for the rest of my life? Possibly. I probably could have. And I probably could have gone to administration and all that. But again, it's what do you love, right? And that's one of the things that I got to give a lot of props to my wife about. Is like, you love this. Like, you love this. She's like, she wasn't 100% on board. And, I don't think she has been. Maybe she's turning the corner now since we've been here for a while, and she supports me 100% now. But she was on it. She was one of the kind of main reasons to give, like, let's do it. And obviously, our faith is big in our life, and it was one of those things that we had to pray about and really make important in our life. And it worked out. And not the first time TJ asked me, but then later, a couple years later, where he was like, "Hey, why don't you come up and be my volunteer?" Because the previous year before I got here, they didn't have a volunteer. They didn't have anybody. And he's like, and I remember talking to him on the phone, and his season wasn't over yet. They're in the middle of the season. He's like, "Why don't you just come now?" He's like, just leave." I was teaching. I was the dean. He's like, "Just come now." He's like, "We could figure it out." I was like, "I can't do that." I was like, I gotta finish the right way. Where I'm at,
Yeah.
and then we'll figure it out if it's possible. And yeah, it's just one of those things. He asked me again, and me and my wife, we talked about it, prayed about it. It was a pretty hard decision, and it just kind of it was the right thing to do. We were supposed to be here, and now it's great, because then Buck came in, and it's kind of, we call it Dirtbags North. It's kind of those things where we all know the game the same way, but we've all taken different things, right? But TJ has a lot of things that he learned from John at UCLA. Buck, went to pro ball in the Pirates, and he's learning all these different things that he's brought. I played, to the highest level and learned from both of them. So it's like we all bounce off things each other, and it's kind of one of those things where Buck says it a good way. The way things happen in Long Beach for him kind of sucked, and kind of he went out in a bad way because of what happened down there. And so, like, now he feels good about where he's at. He's like, it's like we're family up here. It's if you think about people you coach with, you want to coach with people that you consider loved ones and family, and that you'll do things for. And that's the best thing about the relationships we have, is we know each other well enough to be comfortable and to say all the things that need to be said. And that just helps things off better, when it comes to the field and recruiting and playing games. There's a whole trust factor in what happens.
That's awesome. I'm glad you
Yeah.
found that. So that's good. You
Yeah.
got back with the old crew. One last thing on the college stuff before I move on.
Yeah.
As far as recruiting goes, like, just in general, how have you become, like, what kind of recruiter have you become? Like, what stuff do you look for? What kind of kids do you want at your program? Like, those kind of things.
Well, the whole thing about being up in northern Nevada is that it snows. Doesn't snow a lot. We're actually supposed to get our first snowfall on Sunday, they say, but the weather up here is so unpredictable, it's crazy. But you kind of want tough kids. I mean, we talk about the whole condition being, revisa again, be comfortable being uncomfortable, and don't be a conditional player. It's those we like tough kids. We like kids who are going to speak up, but in the right way. Obviously, talent is talent. I mean, talent's going to take care of itself, but it's all the other intangibles. Is he a good person? Yeah, does he have good character? Is he good work ethic? Is he going to be a team player? One of our alumni recently came back, Austin Byler, who's a big mental skills guy. You should probably actually get him on your podcast. I'll reach out to him. He leads he founded a major league university, and it's all mental. It's all the mindset stuff. And he's one of our alumni. He came out and talked about 2 phases that players go through, and it really puts into what kind of players that we look for as recruiting. It's a responsibility phase and the reward phase. So the responsibility phase, you're going to be responsible for your team, and you're going to worry about what happens with the team before what happens with yourself, because you're responsible for, hey, this guy's out partying and he shouldn't be partying, or hey, this guy's not going to class. It's all the other stuff. And as a leader, I need to bring this guy under my wing and tell him, hey, this is the way we do things at Nevada. I know you were recruited here for a reason. Don't go back to someone that you are not, or you're trying to pretend you are. And then obviously the reward phase, don't be a guy who's worried about being an All-American, worried about, gaining playing time, worried about, where am I going to get drafted? Don't be that guy, because if you're worried about those things, you'll never help the team win in the way we're supposed to win. So I take it in that way. Obviously, when I talk to players, I want to know what kind of person they are and what kind of person they're going to be here at Nevada. And that's kind of what I look for in players. Obviously, like I said, the talent's going to play for itself, and they got to get hits, they got to get out. They got to do all that stuff, and they got to be projectable. But the whole Nevada thing here is you got to have grit. It's you got to be gritty. it's kind of like that dirt bag. You got to be, you got to be willing to get dirty and, and play in weather and all this stuff and not worry about it and just play and want to win and be tough and make it hard for the other team to beat you. And that's kind of players we look for now. It's hard in the time we are right now, but that's why conversations with these kids are very important about getting to know what they're really about, finding their social media, right? What do they post? It tells you who they are. TJ always talks about, you are who you hang out with, right? Who are their friends? Yeah, it's all those things now that you dive into when you recruit someone, because you're making a big decision for the program, but you're also making a big decision for that kid and their family. So it's definitely those things I think become more important, because you'll take a kid who's probably has the talent, but has that drive, just a little bit more drive to kind of get better, or get better for the team per se.
Right. And speaking of things you look for, I wanted to transition now to the World Series. Obviously, I think you said you were a Dodger fan, right, growing up?
Correct.
Okay, so it was a huge day. I'm a Dodger fan too. Huge deal. But as far as the decision for Kevin Cash, the manager of the Rays, to take out Snell when he was pitching so well, and it's all about that new analytical wave. And just because it's third time to the lineup, you got to take him out, which is complete BS. But what did you make of that decision, and just that in general, where we are in baseball now?
It was tough watching it, because I played with Cash and I played with Snyder in AAA.
Okay.
I know them, and Cash is a great baseball player, great catcher. So it was hard for me to see him make that decision, because knowing him as a player, you'd be like, you keep your ass out there and you fight, as a player, and it's just the evolution of the game. And it's not Kevin's fault. It's not Snyder's fault. I think it's just the evolution of the game. It's the evolution of how much general managers and all these other people actually have say in the business, which is tough to see. Which is tough to see, because as a baseball player, you don't want to see those things. You want to be able to see a guy grind out and win and battle. And I mean, you saw it on Snell's face. Like, he was like, what are you doing? I mean, and as a pitcher, I mean, you're like 2 hits, 73 pitches. I mean,
and the top of the lineup was 0 for 6 with 6 strikeouts against him coming up. Like, prove to me that you can beat me.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was one of those things, like, it was unbelievable. So I felt, the Rays should have won that game. It should have gone to Game 7, really, if you think about it. As baseball players, it should have gone. Snell probably would have gone 7 or 8.
Yeah.
It would have run in Castillo or the other guy, Fairbanks, and the Dodgers would have been like, oh, here we go, Game 7. But yeah, being a baseball player, that was definitely tough to see, especially for another pitcher. Yeah. So yeah. Because for a Dodger fan, as a fan, it was great.
It was great. First time in 32 years.
I was 6 years old when Gibson hit in that home run. It was great. And I was telling my son, he's 5. He'll turn 6 in June. I was like your age when the Dodgers won it. So it was kind of cool for him to experience it.
I want to get your thoughts on Kershaw, because, I mean, that was a legacy-altering World Series for him. It was just years of him being so good. Obviously, he had his playoff struggles and pitched great, and he got 2 wins in the World Series. What do you think it did for Kershaw's legacy?
Well, I think he's a Hall of Famer overall. Yeah. I mean, I might be biased on that, but yeah,
he definitely is.
yeah. But it's one of those things where it just kind of solidifies everything, and it's one of those things as a baseball fan, we're like, oh, you just hope that guy gets it. You hope, he gets 1 at least. They're stuck with the wrong team, or whatever it might be. So it's a kind of definitely legacy moment, and it's cool. I mean, he grinded out all that bad stuff that people have said about him, and oh, he can't win the big games, and they're right about some of those things, but he was able to kind of quiet those monsters and and give it to him, which was kind of cool. I was actually on this thread with my cousins who are all fans, and they're in Arizona. And, they're like, they need to do it as long as Jansen, Kenley doesn't come in.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I was like, being a baseball player, it sucks. I was like, he got threats. Like, I was like, I hope it's a 3-1 game and Roberts brings in Jansen and he closes that game. It's, you would cringe. But at the same time, if he did it, you'd be like, that's exactly now you retire.
Right. Dude, I was so happy that they left Urias in because he was lights out.
Lights out. It was which is a good story because him, being being Mexican, being left-handed, and he had actually surgery and he's blind in his left eye. Like I was with him, I was like, oh yeah, so there's like for me like that personal connection, which was kind of cool because he was lights out. I mean, I don't know if there's such a thing as a 3-inning closer, but he did it twice. So I mean, it's like
he made the right call.
Long relief closer, So that was awesome.
Last question, since we're both Long Beach guys, and there's been so much talent come through there. Tulowitzki, Longoria, Weaver, you, all the other guys. Who do you think is the best Long Beach State player?
Best ever?
Yeah, to come out of there.
Oh, well, that's tough. I mean, that's a hard question. Biased. I mean, I think I played with both of them, and Weaver and Tulo.
Yeah.
Jared took every record and every award his junior year, so I kind of have to say him.
Yeah.
I'd say Jared. I mean, he was Golden Spikes. He had an ERA of 1-something. He had like I don't know how many strikeouts that junior year. I mean, I have to say Jared Weaver with Tulowitzki is a close second behind. And then you think about some names after that. I mean, Bobby Crosby was probably really good. I mean, he was a first-round pick, rookie of the year kind of stuff. But as far as like stars, and you think about big leagues and stuff like that, I'd say it's Jared 1 and Tulo 2. But that's maybe because I'm a pitcher. If I would have been a second baseman or a third baseman, and I was always with Tulo, I mean, might be separate. They both don't have rings, right? They both didn't do the thing. Tulo actually played in the World Series, so he has got that on Jared. Jared unfortunately played for the Angels for too long, kind of thing. I wish he would have got out of there and kind of gone somewhere to get a ring. But I'd say 1A, 1B, really more than anything. Yeah, more than anything.
I don't think anybody's going to argue with you on that. I think that's great.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say one's. It's just they both did so much at the college level and did so much after that it's kind of hard to say, 1 and 2. I'd say 1A, 1B.
Sure. No, totally fine. Well, that's all the questions I got for you. I appreciate you coming on the show, and we'll definitely be talking down the road. I appreciate it, Abe.
Yeah, no problem, Brent. Yeah, it was good times. I think you're doing good stuff here, and keep blasting it out and keep getting stories, and you'll start evolving and getting other guys on here, which will be really cool.
There we go. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Raider Nation right here.
My thanks to Abe Alvarez. I hope you guys really enjoyed that episode. He's got a really cool story, and hope you guys took something from that. So once again, my thanks to Abe. I really enjoyed talking to him today. If you would like to follow the show on social media, just type in @TooTallSports Podcast. I like to post some clips from all the episodes, and you can follow along with all the updates to the show. I'd really appreciate it. So please follow along on social media. That's Instagram is @TooTallSports Podcast. If you like Twitter, it's @TooTallSports. So please find me there. I'm also on Facebook. You can find my page there. If you'd like to watch the show, it's on YouTube. Just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. If you're going to listen on Apple, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the 5-star when you scroll down and find those stars. If I earned 5 of them, please go ahead and hit the 5-star. And if you'd like to leave a review, that helps too. Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, wherever you get them, you can find it there. But as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for the support. And I will see you next week for another great episode. Have a great day.